all it takes is one sip of coffee to just be like, okay, we're good. Okay, that's not true. Sometimes it takes an entire cup. But when I'm feeling a little stressed and it's the morning and I'm just like, just take a sip of coffee, take some deep breaths. Okay. That's not terribly related to what we're talking about today, but it kind of is. I made this cup of coffee myself rather than going to a shop and buying it. Granted, I do work at a coffee shop, but I also do a lot of researching on how to improve the things that I'm doing in my home, whether it be making coffee or any food that I'm eating. So I'm not the best cook, but I had a couple dishes that I was really good at making, and that didn't suck, more so, and that my husband enjoyed and that we could make pretty quickly and consistently on a really good budget and avoid just going out to eat all the time. So that's what I want to talk about this week. More so, I want to talk about the benefits of both of those, the downfalls that both of them have, because as we know, there's pretty much nothing that's all good. There's not just one way to do everything. So I also want to talk about like the financial difference. You're going to spend more money when you go out to eat. There are definitely ways though to spend way less money. But that's why I personally am so particular about the way that I meal plan and go out and grocery shop and make sure I am tracking everything and sticking to a budget that we can live by, so that when we do go out, we're not like, okay, we're gonna go out, but we're only gonna have one drink, or we're not gonna have a drink, or we can't get dessert, we can't get appetizers, and we have to share. And while all those things are good practices, it takes away a little bit of the luxury of going out, because that's one of the benefits of going out, is that you don't have to clean up the mess. You don't have to do dishes. You don't have to set the table. Like, there's so many things about that, and that is a part of the price, and that is something that I think people don't talk about enough. They're just like, I can't believe I paid, $25 for a dish of steak. I could have got an $8 steak at the grocery store and, made my own mashed potatoes and broccoli for $4 or $5. Yeah, sure, you could do that, but the bulk of the price is not necessarily just in the product itself. I know that from working in coffee and doing coffee math. Like, I could make a cup of coffee at home with the bag that I bought. I could make about 14 bags of coffee in a 12-ounce bag that cost me $13.50, or, around that. Or I could go to a place every day and pay about $2 to $3 per cup. That adds up, and you obviously save money when you buy it and make it yourself. But that's a part of the price, is you're paying for that service. You're paying for the product container, like whether it be a cup or whatever the branding is. You have to think about where the money's going for all the people involved, and going back to the farmers. I think about that all the time with coffee. And that applies as well to food. So there's this large chain of events, and I think it's important to have those things in your mind when you do go out. But also have these things in mind when you're buying food for your own house and to cook with. I buy things a lot more particularly than I order them. So basically what I mean by that is I will pretty much 90% of red meat that comes into the house, I do want it to be grass-fed, and I do want it to be a little bit leaner. And I'm just particular about certain things, like with chicken, no antibiotics, no hormones, etc., etc. That's just because I have more control over that. But I'm not going to go to a restaurant and be like, is your chicken, I talked about this in my mind-gut connection video, I'm not going to be like, is your chicken antibiotic free? If I see that on the menu, then that's cool, that's a plus, but I'm not going to get so particular about that, because it's just, you only have so much control. I mentioned in my mind-gut connection video as well about oils. Like at home, I only use ghee and coconut oil and olive oil and extra virgin olive oil. Those are the 4 that I keep in the house. But when I go out, I know they're using canola or vegetable oil, and those are ones that I definitely don't use in my house, but I'm not against using that whenever I go out. So, other benefits to think about with eating in, like we just said, is it's healthier, and you're having that greater connection to the food because you really do know everything that's going into it. And if you don't, come on guys, like, it's 2019. I always use my Google Assistant. I'm just like, hey, what is this blah 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 made out of, or you know, what did this dish originate in? And that kind of like creates more of a connection to the food, and it's fun to, and I enjoy that. Learning is a huge part of it. I've been watching so many like cooking videos, and that's helped me a lot, because now instead of having 2 or 3 dishes that I'm really good at and enjoy, I try a new one like every couple weeks. So when I first started really enjoying cooking, I was trying to do like 3 new dishes a week. And I finally was like, it was like 3 weeks in a row, and I just kind of felt burnout, and I didn't want to do my meal planning. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to chill. Like, I need to lower my expectations for myself, because I'm working full time and I'm trying to be a wife and, you know, a friend and like all these things. And I was like, okay, my focus can't be 3 new dishes a week. It's not like I'm getting paid to do that. 1 new dish a week is perfect. That's 4 a month. I can get my head around that. And then if I have a week that 2 come into play, then cool. So just do a little bit at a time, change up a little bit of an old recipe that you've used before. I used to do salmon salads all the time, and would just like fry up the salmon and throw it on top of whatever lettuce. The lettuce that we use has changed over the years, and I created my own dressing rather than just doing balsamic vinegar and olive oil. And so these things adapt over time, and it's really cool to watch. Now, the downsides of all of that is that it does take a while to learn, but nothing good comes quickly. So if cooking is something that you want to get good at, just start small. From personal experience, I started too large, and that can hurt us. And then we get discouraged, and then we don't want to do it anymore, or there's too many dishes and things like that, and that is super discouraging. When I worked at Starbucks, that was a really, really important thing that I've learned, and I take for granted a lot of the time, which is called lean thinking. And you just start like the most time-consuming item first. You don't do it in full, but you start it up, and then you do the other things in between while that's going, and everything will be done or approximately the same time. The other thing with eating in that I think a lot of people get tripped up on, I know I did, is not actually planning out. I was like, when I first started getting interested in cooking, like, not even interested, but like enjoying it, I was obsessed with going to the grocery store. And a part of that was just how I was eating, and I was eating very specific. And so I would go to the grocery store like 3 or 4 times a week. And before I knew it, I racked up a really high grocery bill. And there were so many options then in my house that I was too overwhelmed to even see the options available to me. And then all that decision making, I felt a little paralyzed in, and I was like, screw it, we're getting pizza. Like, I can't even create a dish anymore. So that is a downfall, but it can be fixed with meal planning, and I will link my meal planning videos below. I have a couple different like versions and explanations of that in other videos. But essentially, is the first step is to take inventory of what you already have and build dishes off of that. And there's great websites for that. Do all recipes. I don't love all their recipes, but it does get my mind going of being like, I have this fish, but I just bought it on sale or whatever, but I've never cooked with it. So like, what goes well with it? And so I'll do that. One thing that is a financial downfall, I think, with eating out, where, you know, you're doing really well eating in and meal planning, all that, and then you go to eat out and you spend a buttload of money because it's the luxury, like I said, but it sometimes can feel like celebrating rather than just going out to eat. So just finding that balance of not feeling like you have to get a bottle of champagne or a bottle of wine or whatever every time you go out to eat. No, you don't have to do that. It's just you're paying for convenience, and just remember that and give yourself grace as you're learning the best way that works for you. Well, my camera died. It's the next day, so different outfit. I just wanted to conclude everything by saying that you can have all these things done, you can do all these tips, but it is an everyday, every week process. It's something that changes over time, and just be ready and understand that there's an adaptation that needs to take place. It is learning a new skill, and new habits have to be placed in, and it will take time. But the most important thing is to know what kind of things the relationship there, and the mental and emotional connection of all of that. So I hope you learned something from all of this. Just remember that yours is going to look different than mine if you decide to take some of these tips away, and there are plenty of resources out there to curate your own. So this is the last video of this August series of what's to eat, all food things related. Next month I'm going to be doing a series all around structure, so time management, budget, routines, things like that. I hope that you will stay tuned, and don't forget to subscribe so that you get notified whenever I post next video. I think that the communication, I think that the connection of everything, yeah, that happens a lot. I'm glad that I had already parked, because it's hard to get in here otherwise.